Justin. Last time.
Oh,
there
it
you
is.
go.
Now we're on air. Hey-o. Okay. All right. Ladies, great interview. Your first one. Well done. Kudos. What were your thoughts as you were going through that, Laura Ellen?
Well, I just really love the fact that he is also a Barcelona fan. So I'm going to have
to. That's your one. You're done. You're cut off. That's it. It's over.
I'm just going to have to sideline him at some point, and then we can just talk about it. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. All right. Liz, what'd you think?
I just love how he's like exactly the opposite of Lily, as far as like how quiet he is on the field, how little he talks on air. Like, I mean, we got really good answers. It was delightful, but they're a yin and yang of each other for sure.
That's what I was going to say. Just yin and yang. Like, as I'm listening to it, that's all I thought about. It was just like, this relationship probably works out perfectly as far as them. There's a reason why they like each other, I think.
Yeah. Kev, any thoughts, any takeaways from what Coach was sharing?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. I mean, there was a point where he started talking about the kind of growth and development of the USL, and he kind of threw out there like, some point it might overtake the MLS. I was like, okay, like the fact that like it might not happen, it probably won't happen, but the fact that he kind of has that perception of the strength of this league and the direction in which this league is going and the direction in which, the team is going and all that kind of stuff. That was really encouraging to hear that, to kind of see that he sees this league at a certain level. Because I think, maybe not speaking about us, but like speaking to other kind of first year fans of the USL, there's definitely a certain kind of perception of this is really bad soccer. And I'm trying to say, like, it's not bad. And the fact that, Coach Pulisic, we talked about this before. I butchered that pronunciation probably. I always said Pulisic, but it's probably wrong. What is it? Someone correct me. We just talked to him.
I put it phonetically Pulisic.
It's Pulisic. Okay.
Pulisic. There's no C.
The fact that he's saying that is just really encouraging. So that was really interesting for me.
Yeah. Justin, I'm going to throw it to you, man. Everyone's probably like, Justin? Who's Justin? Justin, what were your thoughts on the interview?
Yeah, actually, I liked his comments about Barcelona, not because it was Barcelona, but if he enjoyed, like, Pep being his coaching idol, I guess, if that's the way he wants to send the Hounds and that tiki-taka, incisive passing sort of stuff, then I'm going to enjoy watching the Hounds this year. So I did enjoy that.
Yeah. I think Pep said his perfect goal would be one in which every player on the team touches the ball precisely once before it goes in and nobody else touches it. So I don't know if we'll see any of that out of Lily. I think he's very much more pragmatic in his approach. But I think that, having Coach Pulisic and having sort of that mentality, again, that yin and yang, I think is going to be really interesting to watch moving forward, especially with their history. So yeah, good stuff, ladies, on your first interview. Hopefully many more to come. But if anybody else has thoughts on the interview, on what Coach had to say, one thing I thought was very interesting was you guys asked him about having the Dortmund players suit up as Hounds, and he took it the other way, saying like, oh, maybe they could wear like the Hounds kits like when they're training prior to their game. And I was like, that might be really, really cool. Like the other one was not going to happen. Like they weren't going to take the pitch at Highmark as the Hounds, but if they could get them to wear some sort of Hounds gear as they're warming up, that'd be pretty sweet. I mean, the odds of that happening.
We never wanted them to come and like replace the Hounds. We want them to wear Hounds gear.
Stop it. That's not what you meant.
No, it is. I swear to you. That's exactly what I meant.
Okay. All right. If you say so, Liz. Sure. All right. Yeah. All right. Let's move on. So, the Hounds announced some additional signings this past week. They announced Hugh Roberts and Todd Pratzner, who were both previously trialists. They are both defensemen. Hugh Roberts is a big center back, 6'4", 170 pounds. In 2016, he made the USL All-League first team. The dude can play. Our buddy Evan out in Bethlehem watched him play side by side with Greenspan and basically said like nothing was getting over the top with them. They're just two giant center backs. So we'll see if that matchup sticks over the course of the season. Pratzner was a rookie with Rochester last season. So you have another player that Lily's familiar with, is coachable, and should provide some good depth on the back line. Looking at the numbers, that brings the number of former Rhinos on the team to 7. And if you count Joe Greenspan, that means there are 6 returning hounds from last year. So the Pittsburgh Rhino Hounds are in full strength here. But I think, the argument at this point is that nobody really cares. But overall, that puts the Hounds roster at 21. Kev, I'll start with you. Any additional thoughts on these new signings?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to see both of them are in the defensive position because I think those were the kind of last positions that really needed to be kind of filled out. I think we've already talked about midfield is pretty stacked, forward line's pretty stacked, goalkeepers are pretty stacked. So the fact that we can get in these 2 additions is encouraging. I think the other thing that I'm kind of taking away from this is, I don't know. I was going to say at defense, but really, if you look across every position on the field, I think we have pretty decent depth. I mean, if you write down on a piece of paper your starting midfield, there's going to be at least 1, probably 2 players that like you're thinking they're a really good sub on 60 or 70 or whatever. And it's the same thing with the defenders. So I mean, I'll be interested to see who kind of gets the nod and the starting back 4. Or heck, I mean, even if he plays back 4, everything in the preseason indicates that he's playing in back 4. But yeah, I mean, Hugh Roberts is a big signing for sure. I think what's most encouraging is the kind of tactical options that Hugh provides, Coach Lillian. The fact that he's 6'4", similar frame to Greenspan. So if we come up against a team that's maybe good on set pieces or corners or something like that, just kind of lash those 2 back there, and we become pretty dominant on both ends of the pitch, both on our corners and defending corners. So, I'm super encouraged. Great signings, and I'm looking to kind of learning more about them because I'll be honest. I mean, I don't really know that much about them, but they seem. Worst. Who does really? You want to tell me these guys inside and out? No one does. No. So yeah, I'm encouraged and I'm excited to see what they can do.
I mean, to your point about the depth, you look at just the holding midfielder position. We got Ben Zemansky and Kenardo Forbes. Like, unless there's some way the coach is playing 2 holding midfielders, one of them might be starting on the bench, which, that's pretty crazy when you think about it.
He's probably going 4-2-3-1.
You think?
He probably is. I don't know, right? I don't know.
So
anyway, right. You don't know. You're right.
I don't know. Right? Yeah. Huh? I guess anybody else have any other thoughts on the new signings here?
So strangely, I feel like this kind of gives us some consistency. So we have the 7 Rochester players who have played together, and then there's 6 Hounds who have played together. It feels like a weird kind of consistency that you don't see year over year for the Hounds, to have these 2 groups who probably can easily talk to each other about how each other plays and work together pretty quickly. So I'm kind of excited to see if that does mean that they get their act together more quickly.
So yeah. I think one of the things for me is that, so you have Hugh Roberts, who is a center back with Joe Greenspan, and I, again, like Kevin, don't know a lot, but, we've seen throughout the preseason that Joe Greenspan has been that leader in the backfield. And so I wonder how that dynamic is going to play out between the 2 of them, if Greenspan will continue to take that leadership role, or if there'll be some, back and forth between the 2 of them. And if that's the case, what does that process look like, and having that communication? So I think that part is interesting to me.
Yeah, I just looked last year too, and I was actually surprised that Hugh Roberts made 25 starts for Steel last year. And last season, the Union were sending down center backs almost every game to Steel, between Richie Marquez, Ken Tribbett, and I think there was Josh Yarrow as well. So they were sending 3 center backs generally to Steel almost on a game by game basis, and Hugh Roberts still made 25 starts. So I was actually pretty impressed with that.
Deep cut. I'm happy we have Justin.
Deep cuts there from Justin. That's why he's here, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, I think both of them. I think not that the word is out on Pratzner just yet, but I think we're gonna have to wait and see sort of how he fits into things. Having just sort of the rookie season, obviously Roberts has the the history behind him, and more to look at. But definitely both exciting to see those guys sign. It looked like both got some time against Penn 15 this weekend. Josh, Liz, I know you guys were there. But basically, Penn 15 came to town. Turned out to be a heated affair right off the bat, which you love to see. At one point, coach was John with Penn 15's coach on the sidelines. Hounds walked away with a 3-2 win, which it sounds like things were a bit deceiving, at least in terms of the scoreline. Josh, Liz, take it from there, guys. Tell us what you saw.
I have to illustrate what just happened. So I think we mentioned this previously in the podcast. Everyone kind of has hand signals, right? Historically, I've been like in the number 2, and that means like Michael throws up number 2, comes to me, whatever. So now that we're rolling in these new know what everyone's in chaos right now. Michael's on a 4, 5, 6, 4, 3, 2. No one knows what's happening.
Laura, Ellen, and I are ignoring everything. We're just talking. It's a mess.
There's a delay. It's because we're still ironing out details. That was hilarious to me. Sorry.
All right, Liz, go ahead and you can go first.
All right, so I'm not sure which was my favorite. That the coaches almost came to blows, and then like
how close was it? Was it close?
I mean,
they were giving each other sass. Let's just put it that. Like they didn't look like they were gonna beat each other up like that.
But Lily ended with like, I don't know, a 13-year-old hand up in the air, whatever, and walks away. Perfect. Or that one of the Rochester players had been giving the ref sass, I guess, all game. And so the player ends up on the bench, says something or other, and the ref goes, you know what? You've been doing it all game. Yellow card. On the bench in a preseason game.
Yeah, I think that game had like 4 cards, 5 cards. Like there was a lot of yellow cards in that game on both sides, and it was just a rough game. I don't know. Like we know the rivalry's there for the fans, and at least especially on the Steel Army side. Like you want to have that heated rivalry between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh, but every once in a while you kind of think maybe the players don't feel it, especially since the players don't stick around that long. So it's like, maybe to them it's just lip service, but a game like this game, like really made me think like, all right, they get it. Like this is the rivalry. Like you don't have that heart of a play, and just that sass with all of the players pretty much, and like their heart was in it. So it was fun to watch, even though it was a preseason game. You still felt like the heat was there.
So there were 5 goals scored total. 3 of them were Pens. Was it close? Like the scoreline makes it sound like it was close. Josh, you were like, don't trust the scoreline. So
no, it was not close. I mean, it was pretty much dominated by the Hounds the whole time. Their Penn's last goal was like stoppage time, garbage penalty at the very end. So that was the one penalty that that Penn got. And the other 2 penalties were, they were penalties. It's just one of those things where, yes, you want to see more goals from run of play, but if they get fouled in the box, like that was a goal scoring opportunity that they get fouled, then you can't really complain about getting penalties because they were going to score.
Right. And so there were a lot of plays and a lot of fouls so that the plays didn't get finished to get, a lot of run of play score. Both sides. I mean, there was a ton of fouling throughout the whole game. So you couldn't get something going real strong, but the one that we did get from run of play from Parks was just gorgeous. I mean, at one point we saw Parks trying to like play in the midfield and like keep the ball and be tricky with his feet and pass it to somebody, and he totally failed. Like that is not his wheelhouse. But when he scored, they passed it up to him. He did a breakaway and he just went for the net. And it was everything coach wants him to do.
Well, and if you go back and you watch the highlight video that the Hounds put out, even the penalty that he drew was pretty. Like he sort of took a ball, touched it around the player, was in the open, and got pulled down. So yeah, I mean, if that happens during the season, you're going to take that goal. So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess so. I wasn't at the game, and one question that I have, and I guess Liz and Josh, you were there, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You're saying that there were a lot of fouls, and was it like fouls of like, hey, we are playing physically aggressive soccer, that we are, constantly going to the ball, was it that types of fouls, or was it, this is our top rival and we're just irritated and mad? Because I think like those were one of the things for me that was a little tricky, is that like seeing that, continually throughout the preseason, we've been scoring off penalty kicks. And for me, I'm like, okay, what does this actually mean, right? And it can mean that we're playing physical soccer in the box, which we definitely want that. But at the same time, like throughout the season, we can't just rely on refs seeing fouls in the box or calling penalties in our favor, or, you know, the superb acting skills of male soccer players, which we could have a whole podcast about that. But
I'm sure you will. But
I can tell you watch Barcelona.
Yeah.
Messi doesn't dive. Let's talk about that.
He's the
Anyway,
one person.
but listen, Josh, I'd love to hear your thoughts about like what were the types of fouls and kind of the situations that all of these fouls were occurring in.
This game felt different. It didn't feel like the other preseason games where, you know, it's just kind of like everyone's a little bit sloppy and their touches are just, you know, not the greatest. I'm not saying everyone was on par. Our back line was definitely not the best in this situation, but their back line was pretty good, actually. So they were closing down a lot of stuff in the back line. I think, Mike, you made a mention of it on Twitter or something like that about, you know, the NESL guys coming into this. So it's not that surprising that their back line full of ex-NESL members, you know, it would be a little bit harder. But no, the fouls didn't feel like it was rough play, but it wasn't just sloppy play. It was heated, getting on each other's skin. Like you could tell there was a couple players with beef with each other. They're just, you know, picking at each other the whole game, and it just kind of coming to blows. Not blows, but, you know.
Right, but it was definitely, it wasn't just because of the rivalry. Like, I think they were playing hard and they were going for that ball and they were aggressive towards the ball. It escalated because they went after each other eventually, because the game was just getting to each other and we weren't helping. I mean, we were noisy. There was a good group of us there. I know, it's so hard to believe. I'm so demure.
Right.
But it did, like the second half, it was definitely, I think that's when the rivalry part of it showed up and there was some more actual aggression.
Well, and I wasn't terribly surprised either to see that Penn 15's first goal came off of a set piece after we talked to Lily last week. And he was like, yeah, we should probably start working on set pieces. So like, you know, the last sort of well, I guess we have 2 weeks left here preseason for the Hounds, but he talked about wanting to work on restarts. So I don't feel terribly bad about that either, knowing that that has not been the focus of preseason thus far. So I'm okay with a restart goal and a pen in the 90th minute in garbage time to give those up at the current state of where the Hounds are this preseason. So,
and just remember, I called this score line.
Although, did she? I don't remember. That was Patreons only.
I was going to say that was Patreons only. So not many people heard that.
Listen, it happened, and I was right.
Okay,
just remember that.
Okay, you are no longer official. Anyway, other news that came out today: Rob Vincent. Obviously huge fan favorite. He is hanging them up. He's battled through knee injury off and on, and was going to try to make a go at it this season. I guess he went on trial with a couple different teams and ultimately decided that the knee injury was just going to be too bothersome. And so he's calling it quits, at least on his playing days. I know that there was a lot of things going around on Twitter, just everybody, thanking him for his time as a player, saying that we'll miss him. There's a lot of hope that we might see him back in Pittsburgh, potentially doing some form of coaching. We shall see. It is pure speculation at this point, but apparently there's been a lot of comments about, I'll see you at the game sort of thing. So we shall see. But I guess Josh, Liz, you guys he was huge before we actually started doing this show. And I know for certain that you guys were with sort of the fandom at that point. Do you guys have a favorite Rob Vincent memory that you want to share here on air? I'm sort of putting you on the spot.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's just so many of them. His defining skill was being able to shoot outside the box and just line it in there perfectly. And he had so many of those. I'm reminded of Miracle on the Mon. He had a goal in there. When they thought that I believe it was Kerr was going to take the kick, the penalty or the free kick, and then ended up just passing it to Vincent, and Vincent just slams it into the back of the net. It was awesome. And then I think Krasinski actually retweeted when he was in the Open Cup against who was it? The Rowdies, and he had that goal as well there in stoppage time, which put us through to the next round. So there's a lot of cool stuff. Do you have one at all, Liz?
I think it's just all of them, and then rewatching that and watching just him come down. Like he celebrated in front of the Steel Army a lot. So like he would come down, we would do the high five thing. Like he's one of the players who did that, and so he just became like a darling of the Army.
If you want to see a good highlight reel, like he actually has it pinned on his Twitter right now. If you go to Rob Vincent's Twitter account and it's the pinned tweet at the top, it has just like his like a 45-second thing of just a compilation of his goals, and they're so pretty. It's a shame to see him not play anymore. I do think, especially in the modern era of the Hounds, he's going to be one of the legends. I mean, Angulo comes to mind, Rob Vincent comes to mind as like our top goal scorers that everyone remembers. So. Yeah.
So yeah, sorry to hear that the knee has been an issue, but Liz, did you have something else?
Yeah, so he does have his B license for coaching, and I would anticipate.
Spoiler, yeah.
Just a little bit of digging, find out he has his B license.
Saying he has it, and so he can coach places. And he has said multiple times on Twitter like that he might see us in the stands if he comes over and sits with the Steel Army. I think we would all lose our minds a little bit. It'd be fantastic.
More than a little.
Just a clarification question. Okay, so if Rob Vincent has his B license, I completely forget already what oh my gosh.
Coach Brandt.
Brandt, that was his name. Remember Brandt?
I'm embarrassed. Kevin's most embarrassed moment on the podcast.
Most? Really?
Yes, that was bad. The fact that I couldn't remember Brandt's name. Well, I forget what was Brandt's coaching level?
Brandt had a B. He needed an A.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an A that he needed, I believe. So he's not more. He doesn't have a higher coaching status than Brandt, I don't think.
Okay, interesting.
I could be wrong. But I'm pretty positive.
But even if they have the same coaching license, I think Vincent might have had his B for longer. He may be closer to the A than Brandt was. I mean, which just gives him more possibilities for USL and whatnot.
Yeah, there's a few years of time that you have to have your B before you can go get your A. So,
and I don't exactly see him going for a head coach position anytime soon. I would we would probably see him in either academy coaching or assistant coaching or something like that.
We obviously know a couple different people whose kids are involved in the academy, and all of them remember Vincent's time there very, very fondly. And I think they would be extremely happy if he was able to come back and coach in the academy again. But who knows? This news just came out today, so only time will tell. But we'll all be keeping a watchful eye here on Rob Vincent and see where he ends
back
up.
To Vincent watch.
Vincent watch.
Vincent watch in a different way, though.
It is unfortunately completely different way. Yeah. All right, so the big news and why we have, it feels like 15 people on the show this week is we made an announcement on our live Patreon-only show that we now want to share with everybody. And we've been teasing this news for a while, and there is more news to be teased that we are not going to reveal on this show, that there's been a lot of speculation on Twitter. It's probably about that news. But anyway, so basically what's going on is that we sort of said heading into the off season last year that we were planning on taking some time off and we were going to relax a little bit. And we basically went through the entire off season doing one show a week, and really had more content than even that would provide. So we took a step back and we said, you know what? There's a lot of content here. We've got a lot of people who are really excited about this team and want to talk about this team. And we said, let's take the opportunity and let's do it. Let's talk more about this team. Let's get more people involved. So starting this season, not this week, but I guess next week, really, we'll start kicking things off. We're going to have more Mongol shows for you guys to enjoy out there. We're going to do preview shows, likely with fans from the team that we're playing. So previously we've wrapped sort of a preview of the upcoming game into the analysis show, but it's always been like 5 or 6 days away from the game, which feels like it's a pretty long time away. We don't know about injuries and all that stuff. So we're going to do a preview show that's much closer to the actual game day. We're going to do reaction shows immediately following the game. So the idea is that like you could be in your car driving home and all of a sudden there's a new show with some thoughts and hot takes on what's going on in the game. And it'll be, I don't want to say unstructured, but it'll be very much quick opinions, emotion, get it out there, and then we'll follow that up a few days later with our regular analysis show where we take time. We've had time to process everything. We can think back through it, and we sort of articulate what we think we saw and what's going on. And honestly, breaking it up and having the preview show be a different show, that frees us up to do more player interviews and coach interviews during the season, which we traditionally haven't done just because we were focusing on the preview show instead. So 3 shows right out the gate, boom, right there for you. You got a preview show, you got a reaction show, you got the analysis show. And then in addition to that, we're going to be doing more Womon Goal shows. So Liz, Laura, Ellen running it.
Woo!
Yeah.
And the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, our fans are so happy.
Okay. Anyway.
Kevin's clapping. Kevin's clapping.
I am clapping. The mic is muted, but here you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Additionally, we're talking about doing some history shows. So digging into the history of soccer in Pittsburgh. We've talked about potentially experimenting with some video formats on that. Josh has some ideas for ways that we could do some cool videos and overlay some images and really get into the history of soccer in Pittsburgh. Because, I mean, we had Gene Klein on earlier this preseason and just diving into all of the different teams and the history and the U.S. Open Cup success and all of that. I think most of that are just things that nobody really knew about. I shouldn't say nobody, but none of us really knew about in detail until we had to dig into it. So I think it's a lot of really, really cool stuff that we could share on shows. And who knows, potentially get Gene and Paul on here to do a show. And it just could be a lot of fun. And then additionally, we're going to do Patreon only shows like we just did the live show, sort of doing a state of the pod and giving people more insight into what's going on. So that is why on today's show we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't even count. 6 people joining us, is because we're basically expanding the team in order to bring you all of this great content. So, you know, obviously, you know me, Kev, Josh, you know Liz, you know Laura, Ellen, but we also have Justin here as well, who's been helping behind the scenes, we'll say, for a little while now. Laura Ellen's shaking her head.
I would just like to say that all of my ideas are my own ideas.
Justin, do you
But
have
all of your knowledge may not be your own knowledge.
I mean,
No.
to be fair, Laura Ellen did get me into soccer. I was not a soccer fan before watching her sisters play high school soccer on weeknights while we were dating.
That's fair. Justin, tell everybody about yourself. Do you like long walks on the beach? Who are your favorite teams?
I mean, no, I do not like long walks on the beach. I'm not a beach person whatsoever. But no, I'm a Tottenham fan, a Philadelphia Union fan. Love soccer and love being around the Hounds. And we were so glad to find the Hounds when we came out here because we spent a lot of nights at Talent Energy for the Union, but fell in love with the Hounds when we moved to Pittsburgh. So just excited to be a part of what's going on with Mongols.
Yeah. And as you already noticed in the show, Justin has a great sports mind, unlike the 3 of us that are usually on here, where we're like, what's the coach's name from last season? Who was that? I can't remember.
Yeah, Sports Mind.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you'll be hearing more of Justin across, all of the shows that we have. And that's part of the idea, is that, you know, with a bigger team, you're going to hear us sort of bounce in and out of the different shows and providing different viewpoints, and overall it's just going to be a whole lot of fun. So any feedback that you have on those shows, feel free to let us know. We're just really excited to keep growing and keep moving. And who knows, there may be some other people that are stopping by here and sharing some thoughts.
And I don't know if you said it already, I didn't hear it, but the idea is to have 2 shows going every week, no more than 3 a week. Yeah. So we're not going to be flooding you with, constant notification updates or anything like that. But so the 2 shows that will be every week is probably going to be the reaction show and the preview show. And then the reaction, not necessarily, it depends. Yeah. Live and that kind of stuff. And then also the analysis show is the regular Mongols show that you're used to.
And just for clarification, because this is new news, are all of these new shows going to be right in their feeds, Michael?
So there's been some back and forth on this, but
I was going to say because I already know, but I probably actually
because I don't think we know yet.
I was
Actually,
saying, do you know? Because I don't think I know.
yeah, we're not sure about that yet.
Yeah. Anyway, so there was some talk of the reaction show we want it to be as pure and emotional as can be, and so the idea is literally as soon as the final whistle blows, if we're at the game, somebody pulls out a microphone and just starts sharing ideas, and that may mean that we had a pretty good time, and previously we've tried to keep the show fairly PG, but if everybody's had a little bit of a good time, it may be less than PG. And so there was some concern about putting that in the regular feed with the analysis show, which we do keep PG. But the reaction so far, at least from the Patreon followers, is just, hey, just put it in the regular feed. So maybe what we'll try is putting it in the regular feed. And if it becomes too much, then you guys are welcome to let us know. And we've talked about maybe doing something else, like putting it on SoundCloud and then just using that to stream it directly to Twitter or Facebook. And then all you have to do is open up Twitter or Facebook and you can play it live right from right there. But it's also not in your regular feed and you're not getting it delivered from iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or anything like that. But I think the rest of the shows, at least for now, aside from the behind the scenes show, which will only be for Patreon followers, will be part of the regular feed, if not delivered in some other form, which I'll just sort of let that hang out there for a little bit for another week. And then
again,
we'll go from there.
Teasers.
Listen, I'll put it this way because it was put this way on Twitter. It is not necessarily all our news to share. So we will have somebody on with us next week who will be qualified to share that news. And so, yeah, you'll get the Justin gave a little, ooh, yeah. So yeah, we will have a special guest on next week, and all will be made clear right before the season starts. But we feel like this news is big. We are really excited about it. We got a whole schedule going to try to make sure that we get you all of the previews, all the reactions, all the analysis, all of that. And then, we got this one other little bit of news that we think everybody's gonna be really jazzed about. So awesome stuff. Just so happy that everybody's here. I said this on the Patreon show, but I think Kevin and I are both somewhat touched and honored in that when we started this, literally we were just doing it knowing that nobody was listening and not really caring, except for our mom, who still listens and commented during the Patreon show. So thanks, Mom. But otherwise, the fact that this has grown to, a whole group of voices, even to people who aren't here. Casey has been on the show and he has a voice. Rachel has a voice. She's been on the show. Our buddy John's been on the show. Like, this has become the water cooler where everybody can talk about the Hounds. So if you have anything that you want to say or you want to contribute, feel free to let us know, because we love just expanding the conversation and trying to put out as much quality content about the Hounds and soccer in Pittsburgh as we possibly can. So thank you to everybody who's listened and helped this grow over the past few years. Like I said, if you didn't, we'd probably still be doing it just because we like doing it. But we're really happy that you're here and you want to be part of it. So thank you guys. I think that's it for this show. Was there anything else that I missed that you guys want to talk about?
I don't think so.
Got it. He's in the start. That's about it.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, then let's wrap this. Huge thanks to Coach Pulisic for dropping by. He was a lot of fun to talk to. Thanks to our sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, official scarf supplier to MLS, USL, and US Soccer. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. If you're looking for more great soccer podcasts, head over to bgn.fm. You can follow us on Twitter at Mongols or at Womongols. Right, the girls got themselves their own Twitter feed. I need to go hit that up. Anyway, and email us at mongols@bgn.fm. Head over to iTunes, subscribe to the show, leave us a review. Otherwise, let us know what you thought about this show. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you very, very soon.
Good game.
Good game. Is that going to be your thing? Good game?
Good game.
All right, good.
Working our catchphrase. Yeah.
Bye, everybody.